This is Jack Allwell with another money episode. Today we have Glenn Yaney, and he is at Glenn Yaney on Twitter. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into your real estate endeavors and all of your units in mostly mobile homes, why don't we start out with your relationship with money growing up?
I guess my relationship with money was my mom. She worked at a bank, and she was like a financial advisor for a bank. So they had goals and incentives to sell mutual funds, loans, and stuff like that. So every day at dinner, she would talk about what she'd done today, and I would hear about it, and I would talk about winning the lotto or something like that. And the only thing I wanted to do with the money is to invest it. So it was it was like, yeah, having money's nice, but I've always thought it would be fun to invest, and that's kind of been my history. And with as for learning about personal finances, I stopped drinking around 24 years old, and my life was a wreck. So whenever that happened, it took me a little bit of time, but I started realizing that my expenses were all out of whack, and had a big F-150 and a big car payment to go with it, with like $30,000 a year income. And it just doesn't make sense to have a car payment like that. But so anyways, I ended up trading in my truck for a Honda Civic, which is to me like a huge ego killer. And my identity is tied to a truck, which is silly that I look back at that now. But the Honda Civic was like a two-door Honda Civic. I think I bought it for like $15,000, and the interest rate was 23.9%. I didn't know anything about interest rates then. I learned about interest rates after that. I think at the beginning of the amortization schedule, it was a $400 payment. So it was $350 going to interest and $50 going to principal at the beginning. And it was I think a 7-year loan, and learned that it was never going to get paid off. And my payments would have doubled the payment of the car. So it would have been $32,000 paid over the life of the loan. Wow. If I would have held on to it. And my credit was terrible. I learned to go into banks, try to figure out how to refinance it. It took me over a year to do that. It was like a big goal to try to at least get it down, the interest rate, so I wasn't drowning in interest payments. And got that sorted out. And then that's how it really started, listening to Dave Ramsey. And anytime I was working out, I was listening to Dave Ramsey. It was a big motivator.
Gotcha. So okay. So you changed out the car, F-150, Honda Civic. You stopped drinking. What was the turning point? What was that little thing that said, okay, I need to make a change?
Angry girlfriend and being homeless. Those are two motivators. Okay. I was at the point where my parents weren't probably they weren't okay with me moving back in at that age, being drinking like I was. And I ended up stopping and just really focusing on that for a while. And then once you're out of the fog, then you start to look at other things like your finances and your health and stuff like that. And then you start focusing on those things after the drink was taken away. So,
I think you said you stopped drinking at 24. Now, when did you discover Dave Ramsey then?
It was about that time, about 8 months into not drinking. I would say around I was 20. I think I might have been 25, around their age time frame. And I worked at a restaurant, and I never had any money at the end of the week. And paying yourself first type thing I started to learn that, and put about $50 away every Monday, because after the weekend you have a pocket full of cash. And I didn't have enough to put away a lot, but I started with $50 a week, and managed to save $1,000. And I think it cost about the same thing to go get a real estate license.
Huh.
And that was 25, 26 age. And through there, I got a real estate license. Well, I got an insurance license, and like all the Obamacare and everything was kicking in. And I decided that it was like 2012 when I could see that the real estate market was like, I was reading all these financial books and realizing you buy low, sell high type thing. And I was like, well, I feel like the real estate market is pretty low right now. Nobody wants to do this. And I'm reading these books, and if nobody wants to do it, it's the time to get in type thing. And that's kind of how I started getting. And I figured if I catch this real estate wave, it would be, I know I can find deals in 2012 is what it came down to. I was seeing like condos for like $20,000, and I was trying to get financing, which was almost impossible for condos. And yeah, just trying to figure it out. All I was doing.
So how did you initially look into real estate? What got you going down that route?
It might have been Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think that was a big pivotal point for me, reading that book. I think I read Dave Ramsey before that, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad, and just started getting really motivated, like just consuming anything that had to do with financial education, learning about, all of it, 401ks, just focusing on cash flow, my own personal cash flow as a business. And with that, it just turned into just trying to get as lean as possible financially, and getting all my expenses too low and trying to raise the income.
Gotcha. So you mentioned 401k there. Now there was actually a tweet that you talked about 401k. I'm curious, how much were you putting away into the 401k initially? And well, here, let me just read it. So I saw a tweet from Real Estate Rex. He's at Real Estate Rex on Twitter if you want to go.
Yeah.
And he had a tweet. This was July 13th. The hard truth is your 401k won't make you wealthy. If you want to live like the 1%, you have to take risks and invest. And then you responded to that. I became financially independent in 1 year once I understood this.
Yeah. So I did what a lot of people would not suggest to do. I did have, once I got my real estate license, I started scrambling around showing rentals, because I couldn't show any houses for sale because institutional buyers were coming in and cleaning house. So it'd be like first time home buyer. And, the second you show up to the house, it was already under contract. So it turned into where I only showed rentals, and I would get paid $200 to $500 per deal. And like dealing with, 2012, 13 timeframe, you're dealing with some pretty bad credit. Everybody's losing their house. And so you could be showing houses all day, and these people aren't even qualified to rent. But I did it, and I learned that. And within 6 months, I was recruited by a larger institutional company that, I went from like making $1,500 a year, or $1,500 a month at a restaurant, and to about $10,000 to $15,000 a month at this institution. They were paying very well, and followed all the financial stuff. So luckily, I kept my lifestyle the same as if I was working at that restaurant, and I just socked it away, paid off the Honda Civic, drove that thing into the ground, and but I also maxed out my 401k and IRAs and HSAs and everything you can, just because I just thought that was the right thing to do. I don't know where I was going with this, but I also bought like a condo with my salary was about 24,000 a year, and they wouldn't let me count my commission. So what I did is I bought a condo for $50,000 with my my salary income because it could get me qualified for that, and that was all I could get is a 50,000 or a $90,000 house because of the condo fees and stuff. So I ended up buying a $50,000 condo, and my overhead, the overall payment I think was 560 a month on that condo, including the condo fees. So I just knew that if I ever have to go back to that restaurant, I'll be able to pay for this $560 payment, and and that's kind of where it started. And then I don't. What was the question about the 401k?
I was just so you basically commented that you became financially independent in 1 year once
Yeah,
you understood the 401k won't make you wealthy.
yeah. So then with the 401k, I managed to get it to about $300,000
Wow.
in my 401k IRAs. I got into like the self-directed, I think it's like EQRP thing where you can self-direct your IRA, and I paid I paid for it, and within like two weeks I just thought it was just too much stress, and I just yanked it out. It was $80,000, and I had just maxed out my home equity line of credit on my another house I bought, and the debt just stressed me out. So I figured it's going to take me like a year or two to pay off this $90,000 lines of credit. And but if I pull this 80,000 out of my 401k, I'll be able to pay off this line of credit, and then I can go buy more real estate. Is what happened. So, and I thought to myself, and I heard it from Garrett Gunderson. Is Killing Sacred Cows was the book I read, and it talks about as long as you can make 10% on your money, it would be worth strategically to pull the 401k, because the way you look at it is that you're paying a 10% penalty and then you're just having a higher income. And it's a short story. And I knocked out that line of credit, and I bought a 3-unit mobile home park. And I got seller financing on it. So it was like a $89,000 mobile home park, 3 units. All it was is lot rents. You don't own the mobile home. So I charged, I think the lot rents at the time were, I think it was $359. Might have been, I think it was $359 each. So it was just over $1,000 a month. I think it was just right around $1,000 a month. And the mortgage payment was about 560 on the private financing. And then shortly after that, the same guy that sold me that one sold me a 9-unit. It was 7 mobile homes and a duplex, and sold me that one for about I think it was about 350 is what I paid for it. And 30-year financing, 6% interest. It wasn't interest only, it was amortized, but pretty good loan. I mean, it was $1,948, and it grossed about $5,000 a month. So that right there, if I would have had this debt and this IRA or self-directed IRA, it would have made me so much in fear that I couldn't have come up with the money to put up. I couldn't do it. But once I did that, I think my rental income jumped to like it was either 3,500 or 4,000 a month. And my overhead at that time was about 3,500 to 4,000 a month. So it was like a weight was lifted. I had a good paying corporate job. And once that happened, my whole mindset shifted. My risk tolerance changed. Like I was super conservative. And then once I had income to pay for my overhead and I had these paychecks coming, I just started looking at the risk was different at that time, because now I was always worried about my 9 to 5 deciding that they didn't need me anymore. As a short story, it's like they never told me anything like that, but it always felt like the other shoe was going to drop. They paid me well. I came from a restaurant. In my mind, I didn't belong there. I'm like, I'm in charge of leasing a portfolio of 9,000 houses at that point, and 350 houses a month, which is pretty wild coming from a restaurant, and so anyways, I did that for not very much longer. I was there for, I think it was 6 more months.
Wow.
think I feel like it might have been. Yeah. So then we started raising money with a business partner. He had been in real estate since 2009. Started raising money, and we figured out that mobile home parks pay pretty good, well. Uh, they're hard to finance, and we have private money lenders that can buy them. So we buy like the smaller parks. So a 20 to 50 unit mobile home park is what we're looking for. A lot of the institutions are looking for 100 plus units, and the smaller guys are there's a lot less smaller guys looking for the 20 to 50 units. So it's we're buying them for like between 30 to 40,000 a lot at the time, and we ramped it up pretty quickly.
Now, for people that aren't familiar, and I'm not even quite sure. So mobile home parks. So you said it's like you're renting a parking lot essentially. It's just the land. What about for like the water hookup? Do you still pay for that?
Yeah, yeah. So depending on the park, the 12 units that I told you about,
Mhm.
those all had meters, and I have somebody
Ah,
check them. I pay somebody monthly to go walk the park, check the meters, and then we know what the rate is for the water company, and then we just put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and then we send them the bill, and we just charge them back. We don't make any money on the water, but it's just a wash. Is really the short story. Is just to get we charge residents back. So with all the parks that we own, a lot of them are on wells, and on septic, a lot of them, and I don't. There's not very. We actually don't have any on sewer. They're all septic. So you learn a lot about septic tanks.
okay.
I know a lot of investors will stay away from the wells and septic, so that actually makes them a higher cap rate. The mobile homes, just when you get to the septic and wells, because there is a little bit of risk, with problems with the well, issues with septic tanks, and but also in a lot of our mobile homes, we actually do park owned units, which we will actually own the unit and generally charge around. We raise the rent to around $1,000 a unit is what it comes down to.
Well, what's the process like? Is it like a normal eviction if someone just doesn't pay their lot rent?
Uh, well, it depends on the state, of course, but
Uh-huh.
but for Florida, I think it's the Mobile Home Tenant Act is what it is called instead of the Landlord Tenant Act. But to qualify for the Mobile Home Tenant Act, you have to have over 10 units,
Okay.
and over a certain percentage of those units have to be tenant owned. So it has to be a big percentage. I think over 10 units or something like that. I don't know obviously
Mm.
speak to an attorney, but we have an attorney that does our evictions that specializes in mobile homes. But so long story short, a lot of our mobile home parks, like the 3 unit wouldn't qualify. It would just be like an apartment almost.
Oh,
And the 9 units, same story. Because there's only 7 tenant owned units, they would or it would be just like an apartment as an eviction. But when you get to the larger size ones, depending on the percentage of owners, which most of ours are park owned, so they're treated as if it was an apartment. But once they get over that limit, it would be it's not much different, but you turn into more of an HOA almost. Like you want to
okay.
make sure that the units are cleaned, no trash around the units, and if there's tarps on the roof, they got to take care of it. If they own the unit, if it's us, we would have to take care of it. Insurance regulates us as well. Insurance will drive through the parks regularly, and they'll tell us, you got to fix the skirting, you got to fix there can't be any boarded up windows, along with it could be tarps on the roofs, all of it, trees. You got to trim the trees constantly, just because right now, I don't know if you notice, I'm in Florida. We're having a hurricane right now. Uh, it did hit Tampa, but we're probably about 2 or 3 hours away from the hurricane hitting us. Like there's a little bit of rain, but there's not thankfully not too much. There's a little bit of flooding, but for the houses that it's close to, most of the houses are built up, so that should be hopefully minimal damage for everyone.
So for someone that, a lot of people are probably listening to this thinking, yeah, this sounds great. It doesn't seem like there's as much risk of actually owning this. Like if you wanted to just rent out the lots, could someone just buy some vacant land and turn it into a mobile home park?
That's actually the best. I mean, as an investment, the best part about mobile home parks is that it's very hard to build mobile home parks for regulation. And you're going to have the people that don't want a mobile home park in their backyard type thing. So to have that, and then to build one to make sense, you would want to build a huge mobile home park. So and if you were to do, I'm just, it's just, there's a lot of hurdles is what it would take. And if you were to build a mobile home park, the cost to build it is almost, I haven't ever looked into it, but I would imagine it'd be probably the same price to build a single family home, which I would much rather build a single family home over a mobile home. Just because there's a block structure, insurance, financing, everything that comes with it. So there are people that develop them, but generally it's the larger institutions that are doing the large parks.
Gotcha. And you kind of, it seems like you've had a hurdle at each stage, I guess. I mean, one, you said it's hard to finance. How did you go about looking for some of these hard money loans, and how'd you get those connections?
My business partner has more of a connection to a private money guy. We're starting to get more access to that as you build a reputation. But he was buying those $20,000 condos in 2008, or 2009. So he was able to meet some private money guys doing that. He was buying them with, it's wild. He started with buying condos with credit cards. They're so cheap. At 20,000, he bought his first couple with some credit cards, and then refinanced out with private money guys, and then later on sold them, and then worked his way up. And that's kind of, with my background, I would consider institutional property management background, and he was more of a deal maker and stuff like that. Our combination together works out well, just because I pretty much manage the operations of the mobile homes and apartments that we have. We have about 50 of them.
A good yin yang partnership. I mean, do you have any advice for trying to find people that might have a complementary skill?
I don't have one. I would say that the main thing is to focus on your own personal finances. Me and him kind of agree on all of it. He doesn't like to spend money on silly things. I don't like to do the same. And over time, with that, we kind of just understood that we would work together, because it's hard to find those people that the second they get a paycheck, they need to have a Mercedes. It's one of those things where it's the longer you defer, the better you are, is what it comes down to. And everybody I've followed, the bigger names, they've all been pretty frugal for what their earning is. So I have two other mentors. That one guy has about 1,400 mobile homes lots, and then another guy manages about 10,000 apartment units, apartments. So these are the two guys that really helped me understand putting deals together.
Wow. So what does your portfolio look like right now?
We have about 250 mobile home lots, and we're about, I think, just another 57, 58 apartments. We have a couple under contract right now, so we're hopefully going to close on about 70 in the next couple months. So
wow.
Yeah, right now is a good time, is what it comes down to.
So what's So like, where did you see like the next 5 years going, and what's your motivation for keeping to grow?
Well, my income is not as high as you would think having as many because I am just like a general partner.
Uh-huh.
So what we're building on is building equity in the parks, and as we build equity, that's when the payout happens for me. But mainly, just trying to build a good reputation, return investors their money, and just have just as safely as possible. We just have to, we started looking at apartments recently. There's obviously the interest rates going up, drive prices down, and it makes more sense to buy them. But we just bought 31 units apartments just recently, and it was yeah, it's like all you have to do is just look for the mismanagement. If you find in apartments, mobile homes is like they're just it's every angle, but apartments are a lot easier to manage. Is what it would come down to. Like when we moved from a mobile homes and bought an apartment, it's like the stabilization time frame is we'll say 3 to 6 months for an apartment, but for a mobile home park, it could be it feels like it's taken a year to 2 years to get something stabilized just because you're dealing with all different things. There's just poor construction when it comes to mobile homes and finding the right people to manage to do the construction. There's a lot of hurdles.
Interesting. Okay. Well, before we close out with the last question, you mentioned Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson. You mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Were there any other books, maybe specifically on like mindset shifts that you've come across?
I don't know if it's a mind shift thing, but I like the one book that I really like. He's a mobile home guy. Is Sam Zell. Am I being too subtle? And
Okay.
it kind of talks about the come up of him and how things are. And I just like to read books about people that uh, they just you don't have to be a business banker or something like that to become successful. Is what it comes down to. It's just all about living below your means and then putting that money into the right places.
Awesome. Well, Glenn, let's close out. So what is the best and worst personal finance advice you've either heard or received?
Oof. The one that really stands out, and it feels like it's on a lot on YouTube and stuff like that. And I see these influencers get themselves into trouble at times, but it's like buying your way to wealth. It's like just because you have the car or have the house doesn't mean you're going to get wealthy. It's like the key is to lower all those expenses, lower the house, figure out how to not pay for your housing. Not have to have a car payment, and with that, you tend to have more money left over to pay for investments, and then it just snowballs from there.
Awesome. Well, Glenn, it's been great having you on, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.
All right, thank you.